cost of living in Istanbul, Turkey is going absolutely insane. And of course, this is only exacerbated by nationalist policies, people not realizing how to manage an economy, and greed, realistically. And so it's with this that, of course, I am going to break down how exactly the economy and cost of living play into global business in Istanbul. Hello and welcome back to the Traveling Report. And today we're going to go over Istanbul, Turkey, and how exactly it plays in to the global price increases and how it has come to a massively overpriced destination, realistically, outside of uniquely real estate. So, of course, in a lot of countries, there is cost of living increases. However, in Istanbul, typically that is about 20% per year in real terms. So, even including the lira depreciation, which is 30%, which means locals have less purchasing power. They also have a 20% real inflation, which means 20% on top of that. And so nowadays, renting an apartment in Istanbul center is about 450 euro per month. That's a whole apartment, one bedroom, so realistically, that's not too bad for a major cosmopolitan city, but a meal out can be 10 to 15 euro. And of course, I'll give you some of the examples of meals that would cost 10 to 15 euros. And a simit, which used to cost cents, now costs about 20 lira, which is about 50 cents or 50 euro cents, roughly the same with exchange rates, maybe a little bit less, 45 cents, euro cents. And you have essentially a very expensive cost of living. Of course, if you go to the Spice Bazaar, which used to be a very lacking place for tourists, and it used to be more local, which now it's been overrun by tourists, you're gonna pay, for quite a lacking selection of things, $400 for a day in the bazaar. And of course, there is some difference, if you're not buying Iranian saffron, it's different than if you are buying something else. So, of course, that is something you should be looking into. And of course, if you are more able to act like a local and you don't look like me, you can get better prices for sure. However, it's with this increase in cost that it becomes extremely difficult to worry about staying in Turkey and really dialing in on, of course, what you need and how much you need to budget. So with this, I would say you need about 1,200 to 1,500 euro to live in Turkey, or specifically Istanbul. And realistically, that's not too bad, especially in the grand scheme of things where, of course, even destinations that are less popular in Europe, you still have to pay around that price. However, it's more about comparing it to even just a few years ago when you could have lived on less than 1,000 euro, well less than 1,000 euro per month. And so essentially Istanbul is creating a market of people who cannot afford their own living costs, and realistically it's creating mass inequality in Istanbul. And even going into the grocery store, you see prices that reflect people not being able to afford. And of course, there is some saving graces. Of course, Istanbul is one of the most connected cities in the world, and that definitely plays into the fact that you can, live a good life in Istanbul or anywhere else. That, if you have a foreign salary, especially in Western countries, but if you are taking jobs on the basis of local salaries, of course, not a place you should be looking. Of course, there is a citizenship by investment program, and I'll go into more depth on the citizenship by investment program here soon. However, and of course, if you're looking forward to that, subscribe down below. I would really appreciate that. And so, essentially what you get in Turkey nowadays is a place that is expensive to eat out, expensive to live in outside of rent. And actually, it's interesting because total costs aren't as high as you'd think because of that rental gap. But it's still a place that is relatively expensive, that you'll need to learn how to save if you are on a fixed income, whatever else, you're building a company. And of course, as I travel throughout the world, I do think that it is a great mobility hub. It is a place where, of course, you can get flights to literally anywhere in the world. South America, places like this. And while it may be easy to, of course, write off all of Istanbul and additionally all of places in Turkey as useless, I never write off a major cosmopolitan city as useless. As of course, there is always a potential benefit to the cosmopolitan cities. And so, of course, with this being the case, of course, you probably should buy an apartment if you are looking to diversify into a more globally mobile hub. And don't expect it to go up in dollar terms. Liquidity is crushed. So, with that said, if you need consulting on where exactly to go and how exactly to beat inflation, feel free to book a call in the Calendly link down below. I will give you one-on-one consultation absolutely free. If you are looking to join me on this globalization and internationalization journey, feel free to subscribe. If you liked the video, feel free to like it. If you really liked the video, feel free to share it with your friends. This has been the Traveling Report, signing off.